Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast. As we just finished up talking about Team USA's win, we are on the note of basketball, and I want to dive into the fact that the Cleveland Cavaliers have decided to sign center Jarrett Allen to a 3-year contract extension. It is being reported at 3 years, $91 million, the maximum amount of money that they could have given up. This is the third player that they've given these big bucks to. It was Donovan Mitchell first, Evan Mobley got his rookie max extension, and now Jarrett Allen. This is a pretty proactive move by the Cavaliers, considering the fact that Jarrett Allen still has another 2 seasons left on the deal that he previously signed with the Cavaliers, where he is going to be making $20 million annually through 2026, and then we're going to see this new contract extension kick in ahead of the 2026-27 season, where his salary cap hit is going to jump up to over $28 million. And I think that this is the right move for the Cavaliers. I've been pretty vocal before that I do think ultimately they're going to have to make some changes to their roster, that I don't necessarily love the current construction of their team with the Garland and Mitchell combination in the backcourt and the Allen and Mobley combination in the front court. But regardless, even if I don't think that the fit is right, every single one of those players is a positive impact player, and I don't think that any one of them is going to ever become a negative asset for the Cavaliers. And Jarrett Allen, I think, has been sort of criminally underrated up to this point in his career. 8 years in the NBA, but he is still just 25 years old, or just finished his age 25 season, just turned 26 in April, but Jarrett Allen, former All-Star in 2022. I think that he is a player that every single team could benefit from. I feel like he's in that similar conversation to Bam Adebayo, who I was just praising in the last segment. Now, he doesn't necessarily, I would say, have quite as much of an upside in terms of range for Jarrett Allen moving forward, but at the same time, who knows? He's been above 70% from the free throw line for the majority of his career, shot 74% last season. So who knows, maybe he can extend it even a little bit more to that, those push shots, those short mid-ranges that could add a little bit more. But that's why I struggle a little bit with the combination of him and Mobley. I do think that Mobley could definitely have some upside in terms of adding range to his game. One of them almost have to at this point if they're going to continue to play alongside one another. But again, even if I don't necessarily love that pairing, I don't think that either one of them are going to be players that you can't trade or going to become negative assets where you have to attach others on top of them. We've seen a number of these deals over the course of the past few years, of these massive deals that seem impossible to move, and that's just never going to happen because Cleveland, again, you understand that there is a lot of talent with what the Cavaliers currently have. The fit is just a little bit of the complication there. But last season, we did see Jarrett Allen average a career high in points per game at 16.5. He's been a perennial, stud defender. Still waiting on him to get his first selection as an all-defensive player at the end of these seasons. But again, it also, the fact that he is sort of sharing the court with Evan Mobley. Mobley took a lot of those votes from him in the 2022-23 season. So I think that, again, ultimately, the Cavaliers, they have a bright future in terms of the fact that they've acquired all of this talent. They have them all under contract, and they, in my opinion, are going to have a lot of flexibility moving forward here. Now, they just made a change at head coach this offseason, and maybe that's where we can see, a new a new layer come into all of that. They hire Kenny Atkinson, who I think was a little bit scapegoated during his time as the head coach in Brooklyn, has spent the past few years with the Golden State Warriors as a top assistant there. So Atkinson gets his second chance of being an NBA head coach, and I'm definitely high on that. JB Bickerstaff, it's interesting because I also think that he got a little bit of short end of the deal, considering they seemed to be on a pretty good trajectory prior to that Donovan Mitchell trade, that it just seemed like ultimately by the end of that, again, I've repeatedly now said that I don't necessarily know if I like the fit. JB Bickerstaff had that Cavaliers team that was without Mitchell for the last couple games of their second round series against the Celtics. They were without Mitchell for that. They were without Jarrett Allen from halfway through that Orlando series in the first round. You know, Bickerstaff had these guys fighting, and I do think that he deserves some credit there, but I do ultimately understand as well, especially coming off of, I think more than anything, the loss in the 2023 playoffs when they lost in the first round to the Knicks. That's probably what hurt him more than anything. But again, especially so in the NBA, front offices are always going to lean towards defending the players over the coaches, where it feels like the coaches can be a little more interchangeable unless you have, you know, one of the elites in the game or one of the clear problems at the other end of the spectrum as well. So I think that ultimately, you know, this is going to be the make or break year for the Cavs in terms of, do they need to shake things up here? And we'll see how it goes. I mean, I feel like that could have been on the table for the Cavs this past season if it weren't for the fact that Donovan Mitchell was scorching earth headed into the trade deadline and was keeping the Cavaliers at the top of the Eastern Conference. So now, again, new head coach. This is probably going to be the last sort of last dance-ish. Kind of hate using that term, obviously, because very different circumstances as to what it's usually referred to as, but the last run here with this current configuration of the roster, unless they prove that they are going to be able to work alongside one another long-term. Now, what's it going to take for that to happen? I do feel like there is some degree that if Donovan Mitchell, and he is an unbelievable player in that top 15, and we see him have the performances that he did at the end of their first round series against the Magic. I want to say he was something like 81 points combined in that atmosphere, at least between games 6 and 7 against the Magic in the playoffs this past year, that he can be the takeover guy at any time. But I do wonder if there's a way for him to take a slight step back to allow Darius Garland to be a little bit more of a creator himself, because it seems like the two of them just sort of butt heads, not from a personality standpoint, but in terms of getting in the way of one another, having the best possible looks that you would prefer them to be set up with. So I don't know. Again, I don't think that there is an easy fix, and ultimately I feel like this is probably heading towards some type of a trade. I would kind of imagine that Jarrett Allen would be the first guy to go out of Cleveland, if not Darius Garland, that they would probably prefer to build around Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley if possible. But again, there are definitely layers to that conversation as well, because Mobley, as much as I do believe in the upside with him, Jarrett Allen is more of a win-now player that maybe they try and get. You could probably get a larger return ultimately for Evan Mobley as opposed to Jarrett Allen, especially teams are going to see what Mobley was able to do during that stretch of the postseason where Allen was out, and we saw a little bit more creation and involvement from Evan Mobley offensively. I feel like when they made all of these moves, it sort of stunted the growth of Evan Mobley from an offensive perspective. He's still able to clean up defensively and, be a big time rebounder for them, but At the same time, I think that there is another level for maybe another couple levels for Evan Mobley to grow on the offensive side of the court that I'm just not sure with this current configuration of the Cavaliers if that is going to be possible. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Again, we have some time until we're going to see this actually play out, and it might be over a year before the Cavaliers, make a move. I'm sure when they make this deal to sign Jarrett Allen, that the hope is that they are going to be able to have Kenny Atkinson sort of get to what the root of their problems are and be able to fix them, to have this be the core four moving forward for them. But again, let me know what you think in the comments section. But we're going to be taking our next break here, and when we come back on the other side, we're going to be continuing on with our season previews for all 32 NFL teams. Today we have the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll be breaking down what their chances are of being the first team in NFL history during the Super Bowl era to win 3 straight championships, and all of the different off-season acquisitions and losses that are going to shape their season. So we will dive into that, but first, a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.